From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Walh and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ with Janelle Sabin and Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky. My name is Paul Peck. This show goes back over 50 years, and today something will happen on this show, Sue, that has never happened before. We will have our first female competitor as Julie Selk will take on our returning champ, Chuck Jagodzinski, in our first match of the day.
Absolutely, and I don't think anybody... I think it's just be the same approach as if you were bowling a guy, because Julie has made enough of a reputation in this town that they're going to take her seriously, because she really, truly is a great bowler. And as intense as last week was, as fun as this week's going to be.
Yeah, we had some great bowling last week. Jagodzinski is the guy that survived that to advance. He'll take on Julie Selk, Eric Johns, and Geno Walh, our three competitors today. So it should be a great set of matches from here at Manor 2 Lanes in Amherst, along with the historical part of it, Janelle.
It's such an amazing experience to be a part of this, and Manor Lanes has been a place of firsts for us. Last year here we had our first 300 game. This year here we have our first female bowler. Can't wait to see what happens next year.
All right, so if you're watching us for the first time, you've picked one good show to watch. It is Beat the Champ at Manor Lanes 2. Let's get rolling.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with our first woman qualifier, Julie Selk. Julie.
Sue.
I know how competitive you are. You gonna kick butt today?
I hope.
What's your plan?
To win.
What other sports do you like?
Ping pong.
Should we tell our ping pong story? No, I know how competitive you are. After we took over that place, that ping pong table, and
no chance.
So honestly, you excited to be the first woman on TV?
Yes.
Nervous?
Looking for more? No, no.
I know you're not nervous. You're the best. Honestly, you've won so much. I'm sure this is going to be another day for you, right?
For sure.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks.
Good luck, Julie. I'm here at Beat the Champ with our returning champion, Chuck Jagodzinski. You have to take on the first woman bowler. Are you the guy for that job?
We'll see. We'll see if the lanes didn't change so much. I'll be all right. So.
Not intimidated by girls?
No. But I think it's like a no-win for me, because if I beat her, nobody cares. If I lose her, everybody cares.
Exactly. Now you've got it.
Yeah.
So anyways, I mean, and you had a great ball reaction when you finished up, so I'm sure you're just going to continue on with the same thought process?
Yes, hopefully they didn't break down with all the lights being on them, but I'm going to practice there and see what happens.
Well, no matter what, this is going to be a historical match because it is the first woman that's made the show.
Yes, it is. So hopefully we'll give you the excitement you want.
All right. Well, another first at Manor Lanes 2.
And here we go with Julie Selk taking on Chuck Jagodzinski in our first match of the day. Chuck coming off an impressive performance in wins last week, or a win last week over Tyler Molina. 15th appearance here on Beat the Champ for Chuck Jagodzinski. That's second to only Mike Zarcone.
So Chuck's got really good ball reaction. He's playing the lane very, very deep, much deeper than we're used to seeing people, but that's how this condition broke down.
Well, remember, we're in the third set of shows here in a given day, recording at Manor 2, and this is usually the point when the lanes start to get a little more troublesome, for lack of a better word.
Right, they start to
which
definitely break
means they're
down.
not doing what people are hoping they're doing, which means the adjustments become much more critical.
Right, because in this case, everything was in from the beginning. Like the 10 and out, second arrow and out was already out of play before we started, where normally that's where people will start. So the breakdown, we lost those whole first 10 boards, so the breakdown has gotten deeper and deeper and deeper. So the shot's really around 20, fourth arrow, which would be equivalent to the shim, so we speak, where all the oil is. Mm-hmm. So that's really deep on the lane for people.
So here we go. First look at Julie Selk from Lancaster. First frame. Couldn't get that last back pin to wobble its way down. So a little bit of a challenge right off the bat here in the debut performance here on Beat the Champ for one of Western New York's outstanding women bowlers.
Well, one thing I'm going to say with a lot of confidence is that it's not nerves for Julie. It's not about her being nervous. This is a place on the lane that she never has to play. She's got a lot of ball speed. She gets through the front of the lane really, really clean. So she never has to get as deep on the lane as this pattern is forcing you to be. So she's in an area right now where she's not all that comfortable because she never plays there. That's a good shot right there.
So after an open in the first frame, much better shot here in the second, and a spare opportunity for Julie Selk. Been bowling for well over 40 years. We won't give her age, that's not appropriate. We normally do that on the show, but let's just say she's been bowling for a long time, a healthy 222 average. And a spare in the second frame for Julie. Chuck Jagodzinski's 50 years old, from Lancaster as well. Works at the Attica Correctional Facility. 235 average for Chuck. And a strike in frame number 2.
I mean, there's just such a great shot there around the fourth arrow. It's just such a strange place to be playing because you're actually opening it up to fourth arrow. It's just an interesting spot.
You got a quick look at Janelle Sabin and the Castellano Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, and a couple of hops with the body English from Chuck Jagodzinski. Not enough to get the 4-pin to go down. Chuck Jagodzinski, one of the top bowlers, not only on this show, as we've mentioned, his 11 wins overall put him in 5th place of most wins here on Beat the Champ, and we said his appearances are 2nd overall as well too. So a spare in the 3rd for Chuck, and we bring it back over to Julie Selk. Well, you've bowled with Julie a lot. You're friends with her. You've been around her. As you see her get a 3rd frame strike, tell us what kind of bowler she is, and tell us how well she's prepared for this particular challenge.
Well, we've bowled our state tournament together this year. We've bowled city tournament together. We've actually bowled a lot together over the last couple of years, and she is very confident, incredibly competitive. So, like I said, nerves won't play a part here. It's just going to be a feeling of her being comfortable. But as far as competitiveness goes, I don't think I've ever met a more competitive person, honestly. We've played euchre. She's very competitive, wants to win at everything she does. So,
spare in the 4th frame.
you know she's not going to quit. And
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV. The people like yourself and Julie and Chuck that bowl at the highest levels of Western New York, you guys all know each other. You're all friends. You've all bowled with each other, against each other, mixed doubles, whatever it may be. So it's a very tight-knit community that you and I have talked an awful lot about. So there's no animosity. I'm sure Chuck has bowled with and against Julie numerous times before. Well, right now, both Chuck and Julie struggling a little bit to find the right groove and to find the pocket, and it's been a struggle for both, and that time Julie unable to get the spare, so that's a 2nd open frame for her that comes in the 5th frame. Good crowd on hand cheering on Julie, her mom, her dad, her husband Terry, and her kids, Mattingly and Lucas here at Manor, 2 Lanes. Can I safely assume with a daughter named Mattingly that Julie is not a Red Sox fan?
You can absolutely assume that. She is a diehard Yankee fan, never misses a game. She tapes them when she can't watch them and goes back and watches them.
Good for her. That's
not
awesome.
allowed to tell her the score.
That's awesome. And got to be happy with the way the Yankees are playing to get the season started. So strikes in the 6th frame for both Chuck and Julie. Maybe things are starting to be figured out a bit. Chuck Jagodzinski, just about one of the busiest bowlers in Western New York, bowls 4 nights a week in leagues all over, in 4 different places all over Western New York. There's a strike for Chuck in the 7th. 63 career 300 games for Chuck a 38 800 series. Julie's had 2,300 games with 10 800 series.
And if you look at Julie's bowling schedule, it's pretty full also.
Yeah. How about 5 nights a week for her?
Well, these lanes are definitely different, which we've known all along. Especially if you're not really deep on the lane. If you're not playing 20 and you're a little bit right of that, that's where the squirreliness comes in.
Yeah, so this is a big challenge, looking at 5 pins here. How does Julie figure out how to get all of them down? She'll get 3 of them down. So now that's a 3rd open frame here for Julie, and she knows that's not going to help her beat a great bowler like Chuck Jagodzinski. The only nights that Julie does not bowl in the league are Wednesdays and Sundays. Not sure what, that maybe those are nights reserved for Yankee games or something.
That's where she catches up out on her.
Yeah, didn't get the late hook there towards the end, so 3 pins are left in the 8th frame. Numerous city titles, team singles, doubles, state titles as well. 3-time Buffalo Bowler of the Year is Julie Selk, and couldn't think of a better, maybe other than you, and I'm biased, to have been the first female bowler to make the show here. And I know you made a nice little run here at Manor too as well.
I did. I gave it a go. But
well, thank you for not inflicting so much more Jim Russo time on me as you were actually out there bowling. Oh, Chuck's got the arms in the air for good reason. 3 in a row for Chuck Jagodzinski. Starting to take control of this match.
yeah, unfortunately for Julie, this shot has definitely moved very, very deep. Look where he's playing. I mean,
4 in a row for Chuck. How much of an advantage having bowled in last week's show and not all that far long ago from here to try to figure out these lanes a little bit does that wind up being for Chuck? Not that Julie didn't practice a lot.
I think in this case, it's the ability to play that part of the lane. And
nice shot. 9th frame strike.
if this shot would have been to the right, you would have seen an entirely different match. But because not everybody can play 20, so that does start to narrow the field when it gets in that deep.
Don't forget, top qualifier in our round of 24 every month here on Beat the Champ wins a television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. We're moving on to the Tonawanda Bowling Center in 2 weeks for our next set of competitions. So Julie with a spare here in the 10th. She'll have one more throw to post up a final score. And the final score will go on the board for Julie Selk. A little handshake there. Congratulations on a good show. Chuck Jagodzinski is going to advance on, win his 2nd in a row, and move on to his next match. It's a 157 on the board for Julie Selk. Chuck Jagodzinski still knocks down pins, and he is on his way to a win. We'll talk to Julie about this historic debut here on Beat the Champ. Get you ready for match number 2, and Sue and I return to Manor 2 right after this. Chuck Jagodzinski gets the win over Julie Selk. Chuck advances on to match number 2. I know you're disappointed. There was a lot on the line here, a little bit of history involved. I know this is not how the kind of bowler that you are,
Correct.
is it?
Correct. No, this was hard. This was hard.
Sue talked an awful lot about that just the lane conditions did not suit your kind of game. Was that you felt like that was, you have to overcome that to begin with?
Correct. I like to play the outside, and there was no shot on the outside. And then I move in, and it's not very good either. So
All right. Well, it was great to see you on the show here. I know Jim is excited. Sue certainly was. Jim, try to make her feel a little better.
We like Chuck, but we were hoping he'd go on a run here and help the ratings a little bit, but it wasn't to be.
Well, maybe
And
it's
I noticed you shot me a dagger when you said, I couldn't play the outside because of you.
He's the guy to blame for that.
But I have a little bonus for you.
Thank you.
So that'll be something anyway.
Right. Well, it was great to see Julie on the show, and I know we're going to see her and some of the other outstanding female bowlers in Western New York as we move forward. But we know directly moving forward, it's another match for Chuck Jagodzinski against Eric Johns. That's coming up next.
Maybe you'll see me at Manor.
I'm here at Beat the Champ with Eric Johns. We've seen him before. He's been on the 4th show in the Pro Shop qualifiers, but now you're on the big show. How you feeling about it today?
I feel good. It's just bowling, that's all. It got 60 feet long and 40 inches wide.
Good approach. Not your first time on television?
No.
Tell us a little bit about another show.
Well, I was on Beat the Champ back in the 80s and 90s. My biggest thing about being on TV was when I won the Bells Open.
You know we're going to show footage of that, right?
No, I didn't know that.
And we go way back. We bowled together, and we've always had a lot of fun, haven't we?
Always, always, especially at night when we shot that score at Orchard Park Lanes.
That's right. We might get a picture of that, too.
Let me stop talking.
Well, let's make today fun, too, and see how long we can keep you here.
I hope forever.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Bowl well.
All right, thank you.
Chuck Jagodzinski looks for 3 in a row. The opponent is Eric Johns. We'll talk a little more about Eric, who is somewhat of a familiar face to Beat the Champ bowlers, but technically making his debut in the competition part of the show. But right now, Chuck Jagodzinski, to make a bad analogy, is on a roll, Sue. 247 in the win over Tyler Molina, 243 in the win over Julie Selk. If anybody has been able to figure out these questionable lane conditions, I'm not sure who's responsible for the question. Oh, Jim's here. Oh, Russo, you're here. Sorry about that. Don't take it personally.
I'm good. I'm good.
Hey, there's putting 240s out there. It can't be unplayable.
That's right.
Exactly. So, spare the first frame for Chuck Jagodzinski. And here's
Actually, no,
Eric.
it wasn't open.
Oh, it wasn't open. I'm sorry. I should be not paying attention, not watching Jim and paying attention to the
Trying
lanes.
so hard to throw me daggers. But,
Well, that's a challenge in itself. And a strike in the debut throw for Eric Johns.
Jim, you think these guys never played 25 before? I mean, come on.
well, I'll tell you.
I guess we should have beefed up the middle.
It takes a combination of equipment and talent and experience to be able to play this line.
Okay, I like how you said that.
Wow.
2 in a row. Apparently Eric Johns has all of those. 65 years old is Eric from
What?
Niagara Falls. More about him
65.
When did that happen?
in a moment. But back to Chuck now. So he'll try to shake off the open in the first frame. And he does with a strike in frame 2. I will caution everyone that Chuck had an open in frame 1 of his 247 to 215 win over Tyler Molina. So that doesn't usually slow him down. 12 wins overall now for Chuck Jagodzinski,
Great
thanks
shot.
to the victory over Julie Selk. Oh, will it go down? No, it will not. So those 12 wins move Chuck into a tie with Dana Vojtovic for 4th most wins here on Beat the Champ. And we mentioned
He's got all the
his
stats.
15th
He's a numbers
appearance.
guy.
I'm a numbers guy. Yep, I'm a numbers and stats guy.
Did you know that he left the, we talked earlier about the weight of the pin?
Yes,
You know how
3.6.
wide the pin is?
No, say 3.5 inches.
4 inches.
I was close.
You were close. 4
I was
inches.
close.
Yeah.
How tall is it? Well, if you're going to come armed with stats here. You didn't see that. I got the arm wave from Russo.
But I do know from center spot to center spot is exactly 12 inches.
On the lanes themselves, you mean?
That's right.
Interesting. Look at all the knowledge and trivia you are passing along here.
So what we've got between the 3-pin and the 10-pin is 12 inches.
Uh-huh.
No matter which way you go from spot to spot.
So you're telling me the pins are 6 inches apart, right? From the 3 to the 10, you said.
From the 3 to the 10.
Or the 3 to the 6.
No, no matter which way. No, 3 to the 10
Okay.
there's a foot in between there.
All right, I got you. I'm with you. I'm confusing myself.
I think I confused myself too. I think we better get off of the subject.
Yeah, let's talk about Eric.
Forget
Let's talk about Eric. From Niagara Falls, 65 years old, retired from General Motors, a long career there. He's been bowling for well over 50 years, and even though he's making his debut on the show here, so he is one of the core guys of bowling in this town for the last 30 years.
He is, and just so much fun to always bowl against, bowl with. I mean, I've bowled team with him for a season, and man, lots of laughs and great bowling too. He's a great bowler. And he looks so nonchalant about it. I mean, he just looks like he's going out there and throwing the ball, but believe me, there's a method to that madness.
So an open in the third, a spare in the fourth after strikes in the first two for Eric, and here's Chuck after the open in the first, strike in the second, spare in the third. Going to be a spare opportunity in the fourth for Chuck. What is Chuck been able to do and adapt to in these very challenging conditions that we've talked about?
Chuck's been able to you got to keep the ball in, and you got to be able to play virtually, you got to lay the ball down around fifth arrow. You're going out to fourth arrow, even as much as third arrow, but his set down point is left of the fourth arrow. Not everybody can do that.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. And an opening for Chuck Jagodzinski. And that's one of the nicest balls we've seen Chuck throw.
Chuck just sees it. And sometimes when it comes to bowling, you have to, sometimes you see the pattern and sometimes you don't. And in this case, he really sees what he's got, which is really helping his projection.
Seventh frame, Chuck Jagodzinski.
Great shot.
Boy, what he's seeing, he's liking at this point. And now Eric Johns facing some work to do here.
But if you watch where Chuck's rolling it over, he's rolling over about the third arrow coming from the left side. Nobody's trying to play him that way.
Again, he got it out into the bad
missed
area
the pocket
of the lane.
and right. Three times bowler of the year in three different areas. Buffalo in 04, Tonawanda in 08, Niagara Falls in 2014. Among the many achievements for Eric Johns, including Niagara Falls City Team titles numerous times from 1995 to 2009. The only time we've seen Eric on the show was our very first show back in 2016 at the Rapids Bowling Center when he bowled in the Pro Shop Challenge, our fourth show, and we haven't seen Eric since then, so this is the first time he has actually qualified for the show. And it's not the first time that people have seen Eric bowl on TV, because a little dig into the archives of YouTube have dug up Eric's appearance of a 1987 Channel 4 Open, and boy, he was good looking back then. He's good looking now too, but pretty cool to be able to see what Eric looked like a long time ago when he was in his bowling prime. Can't hide from anything anymore, can you, Jim Russo?
Not
There's probably
anymore.
videos of you somewhere
All
floating around
there.
there that you might not want us to show on here.
Well, there's some that are good, and some that maybe aren't as good.
There's plenty of
I don't know
plenty of my videos that I don't want to show.
I'm not
here
sure
either.
which ones you're referring to.
I don't know either, but I'm just guessing. So, Well, the missed spare opportunity there for Eric is going to leave it open in the 9th.
Eric is running
in the
into
8th for
trouble
him.
here.
Yeah. And he's running into Chuck Jagodzinski as part of it. But there's a little trouble for Chuck. Don't forget, top qualifier in our round of 24 each month here on Beat the Champ wins a television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. 2 weeks from today, we move on to the Tonawanda Bowling Center. Chuck breaks out the famous bowling boxing glove spare ball and doesn't quite get the job done for him open in the 8th.
And speaking of Tonawanda Bowling Center, the finals, the qualifying and the finals are going on this weekend over there. So on Saturday the 9th, they'll be qualifying, and on Sunday the 10th, they'll be qualifying and the top 24 and the roll-off for the top 9.
So still a chance to get in there and make it yourself on the show in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Eric Johns in the 9th frame. And Jim, I know you want to mention the big bowling tournament, the Proprietors Golf Tournament coming up later on this summer.
Bowlers on the golf course. Yeah. What a combo. Yeah.
Use your imagination on that one.
We are, this is our 10th year of raising money for our youth scholarship funds, and it's a combined effort between the Greater Buffalo USBC, the Tonawanda's USBC, and the Bowling Proprietors Association of Western New York. And again, 10th year, this year we're at East Aurora Country Club on Monday, August 6th. There are still some openings, although last year's event was sold out. And, you know, if nobody backs out at the last minute like somebody named Peck did last year.
Oh, you haven't forgotten, have you?
We would have been sold out, but we were one short, which, but you know, what are you gonna
I feel like I want to give you the Russo, the Russo arm there. So,
yeah, better
hey,
things
if
to
nothing
do.
else, the opportunity to play East Aurora Country Club,
Exactly.
how they let you hacking bowlers out there to ruin one of the nicest courses in Western New York, I don't understand that at all. But East Aurora is maybe one of the top 2 or 3 courses in all of Western New York.
Beautiful course. We have a lot of fun. A lot of people out. Janelle will be there with us. Sue will be there with us. We have a lot of fun. Needless to say, when you get all these bowlers out there, it's like a party on the course.
Well, I don't know what could be a better selling point than to be a part of that tournament coming up in August.
We've got great prizes too. Prizes like from Dirt Cheap TV. We've got ourselves a big screen TV.
Cross the street from Trader Vic's?
Pardon me?
Or across the street from Trader Joe's?
Right across the street from Trader.
Is
Dirt Cheap TV.
an afternoon with Jim Russo goes to the worst scoring bowler golfer? Is that the prize?
That's it. They get me in there foursome.
All right, Chuck Jagodzinski is a winner again, 3rd in a row, a victory over Eric Johns. We will come back and talk to Eric and get you ready for our final match of the day when Jim, Sue, myself, and Janelle return. It's Beat the Champ at Manor 2 in Amherst. Back right after this. 217 to 152, our final score. Chuck Jagodzinski wins again. Tough debut for you, Eric. Tell me about the lane conditions and how much that might have factored in for you.
I don't blame nothing on the lane conditions. It's just I wasn't throwing the ball straight enough through the first 2 parts of the lane, and where Chucky got it through the mid lane a lot easier than I do.
Right, and that was the difference, you think?
Yes.
All right, well, it's good to finally get you back on the show. Let's not make it like 3 years before we get you back the next time.
I'm aggravated now. I'll be back.
I'm going to let you deal with him now.
All right. Well, you know, there are a lot of people that when they come into a bowling center, the proprietor wants to run and hide. But I can honestly say that when Eric and guys like Carl and the people that came out to this qualifier, we had a great time, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And a lot of fun, and it's always great to see you.
Always.
And take that and don't go bowling at other centers.
It's a little short, you know, this time. I hope it's a little heavy next
You
time.
made it a little short.
Nah.
I would love to continue this because this will probably go on for another 15 minutes, but we've got another match to give to you. Chuck Jagodzinski and Geno Walh. It's coming up next.
on Beat the Champ with Geno Walh. Not your first television broadcast, right?
It's not.
But you know, this is a big day. We're making first time a girl's made the show. You intimidated by the whole girl bowler thing?
No, not at all.
Okay, well, she's got to work cut out for her because nobody she's bowling today is intimidated by the whole girl thing.
No, yeah, so I'm pretty sure that nobody is.
Okay, good. Well, whoever you meet, what's your approach to this bowling condition?
I had a pretty good look in qualifying, so I just got to see what the practice pair looks, see if it's close to the same, and if it is, I should have a good chance. But other than that, we'll see what happens.
All right, well, all the matches here have been exciting, so I'm sure this one will be no different.
Hopefully.
All right, well, good luck to you today.
Thank you.
Match number 3, can Chuck Jagodzinski continue his streak and get 4 in a row? The guy standing in his way is Geno Walh. So here we go. It's our final match of the day here at Manor 2 Lanes in Amherst. And right now, nobody's been hotter than Chuck Jagodzinski. He has figured out the tricky lane conditions. Let's see if he can do it again. 3 in a row for Chuck. He has upped himself now to 13 overall Beat the Champ victories, which is tied for 4th overall with Matt Sazowski. And a win here in this match will get him to 14 and tie him with Tyler Molina, the guy that he beat in order to start this win streak.
Chuck was telling me during the break that he's starting to get a little winded. Here's where conditioning comes into play. And he said that us old guys aren't made for this kind of pressure.
First throw is a strike from Geno Walh, 38 years old from Lackawanna. He is making his 3rd appearance on Beat the Champ. 1 win and 1 loss. Last time we saw Geno was all the way back in the summer of 2016 at Alley Brandt Lanes, where he won 1 match and lost 1 match. Yeah, just missed the pocket there a little bit and leaves that cluster of pins on the left-hand side. 38 years old is Geno Walh, employed as a FedEx driver, and again lives in Lackawanna, bowls regularly a couple nights a week at a couple of bowling centers around Western New York. So just another one of those good, solid, steady Buffalo bowling guys who finds the time to get on to the show here.
Yep, good spare there.
So strike spare in the first 2 for Geno, and Chuck Jagodzinski will head to the 2nd frame.
Another good shot.
Right in the perfect spot. Well, Jim, you mentioned it. Chuck did have 5 wins in a row back in Jamestown in 2016. That's his longest winning streak, but it's a good point. It starts to wear guys down a little bit and bowling a lot of games. And, you know, it's actually, when we're recording this, not a particularly hot day, but we're at that time of the year where it's starting to warm up.
And it's a different type of pressure when you're on TV. If he was bowling a 6-game qualifier somewhere, in the big scheme of things, he could bowl a lousy game, come back, bowl a big game, and he would still be in it. But in here, every game, after every game, you reset, and the pressure just builds on you again.
Right,
so
it's
it's got to take a toll, right?
And mental too, because you really have to have a plan when you go up there. You've got the whole, and mental is tiring as well.
And I think when you start to string wins together and become a little more of a target for all the remaining bowlers that you have to go through, that amps things up a little bit too.
Right.
You want to keep the winning going. You want to put a nice streak together, and you know, but you're the hunted. You're the hunted instead of the hunter.
So instead of the pressure going away, the pressure
gets even more
intense.
The more you win, the more pressure, right? There's Janelle Saban. No pressure on Janelle. She's just there to keep us up to date on the scores on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Although, I will say there's plenty of pressure on Janelle, because if she's 1 number off, we hear about it, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Spare for Geno in the 3rd frame. Everything is perfect on the Castellone scoreboard.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that look at that scoreboard and never see the scores. Believe it or not.
I will reserve without comment that line, and we watch Geno Walh
we're
get
better
himself
off.
a strike.
Good shot there by Geno.
Yes. So 2 spares and 2 strikes in the first 4 for Geno. Chuck Jagodzinski through the first 3 with a pair of spares and a strike. Let's see what he does in number 4. Perfect. Boy, I think the neat thing about Chuck is when the ball's about halfway down the lane, you already know whether it's heading in the right spot to be nearly a perfect shot.
Well, that's because that's the part of the lane that you need to control. In this case, you wanted something that's going to read the lane, mid-lane, and stop moving.
That's what Eric Johns talked a little bit about. The key is the mid lane. Now, I guess explain that for everybody here who might not quite understand what you mean. We talk so much about the beginning. We talk obviously about the hooking at the end, but what does the mid lane play a role in?
Well, as a bowler, you approach it in 3 sections. The heads, which is the front of the lane, the mid lane, which is the area between the dots and the dark spots down the lane, and then the back ends, which is beyond those dark spots, like 3/4 down. So you want a ball, depending on the way the oil is placed, you might, if it's hooking in the heads, you want something that goes longer. You want pearlized. You want something that, or you throw it harder. You need something to get you through the front. But the mid lane kind of dictates where the break point's going to be.
So this question for both of you then, how, when you're trying to decide the right ball to use in the right situation, are you leaning towards the head of the lanes, the back end of the lanes, the middle of the lanes? Where do you want that ball to be most reactive?
You have to look at all 3.
Of course, I knew you were going to say that.
You always want the ball to slide, roll, hook.
Oh, okay, that's a good way to put it.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
You want it to be all used up by the time it gets to the back, and then that would be one of the dangers, is leaving a 5-7 or an 8-10, because you have lost all the energy in your ball by the time it hits the pocket.
Good bounce back for Chuck. So both guys go open in the 6th, but Chuck comes back with a strike in the 7th.
Sometimes people are asking me, well, how do you keep the ball straighter further down the lane? If you notice here at Manor 2 and over at Manor and some other centers also, they have down the lane markers. Those are the dark boards further down the lane. The board furthest on the outside, furthest down the lane, is at the 38-foot mark. And that's also the same as the second arrow. And then the board inside of that closest to us is at the 35-foot mark, and that's on the 3rd arrow. So if you can get your ball down to those spots straight.
So those are good target spots, good target points.
There's just more targets for you to use. There's a ton of targets on a lane, isn't there?
There is.
Tell them about them.
Well, there's dots, there's arrows. What I like to do, what I learned to do, is to draw a line from the way you want your ball to go. Because sometimes you'll see, like in this case, where he's setting the ball down, he's throwing it right. So his line would actually be kind of left to right. Sometimes when you go up the boards, that line will be straighter. So it's not as much as hitting a target as it is in kind of visualizing the direction of like a point to a point. So sometimes it's going to be left to right, sometimes it's going to be straight up.
Eighth frame spare opportunity, successful for Geno Walh. So he's hanging in there because Chuck hasn't really been able to put Geno away here, despite a couple of the missteps for him. But each guy with only the one open frame, so we're still close here.
It's 3 pins, believe it or not.
That's a big one for Chuck. Back-to-back strikes in 7 and 8. And another one here in 9 will really put the pressure on Geno. 13 overall wins for Chuck Jagodzinski here on Beat the Champ, looking for a 14th against 9 losses. And another big strike, 3 in a row. And just when we were wondering whether Chuck had lost a little bit of his mojo, he comes right back with a turkey. And now the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard shows a much different story than it was about 2 minutes ago. And don't forget, we move on to the Tonawanda Bowling Center in 2 weeks for our round of 24. And the top qualifier in the round of 24 wins a television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. Next week's show is going to be a really interesting, and we're excited about it. Jim, we thank you for the opportunity to do something a little bit different. It's going to be a recap of the finals of the Obenauer Masters. We're going to go through the highlights for you, sit down with the actual bowlers, do some analysis, get some reaction, really have a little fun highlighting one of the highlights of the bowling year here in Western New York, the Obenauer Masters Championship.
Spare for Geno. Yeah, the Obenauer is the most prestigious tournament in the area. And it's been going on for, I think, 73 years?
I can tell you right now, it started, I had my stuff right in front of me here.
You're not going to make us do math, are you?
I'm not going to make you do math, but I do have to put my glasses on here. 1964 at the old Rockmar Bowling Center was the very first Obenauer Masters. Won by Tony Madonia, right?
Tony Madonia.
Yep, he was your first winner. Okay. But it is absolutely the highlight of the year and the ultimate test of bowling here in Western New York. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history. We're going to run you through how everything went for this year's event and take you through the final championship matches. So.
And Manor 2 is just pleased to be able to bring that, to highlight that tournament. It's long overdue. I've always thought that it deserved a lot better coverage than it ever gets. And this year, hopefully, we can take care of that and give them their due.
Yeah, it really does crown the king of Buffalo bowling just based on how hard it is, how there's 128 bowlers that took part in this year, and every one of them are names that people in the bowling world or watchers of this show probably know all about.
Right.
A lot of high-level beat the champ bowlers were in the Obenauer this year, so. But it's certainly much more grueling to have to win a lot of bowling over the course of, 5 days.
And it may be one that you might want to take for your, just for future reference. We're going to talk about the past winners.
Yep.
And I just
You were personal friends with George Obenauer, weren't you?
No, but I did know Tony Madonia.
All right, that's good enough. That's good enough. So it is named after the former president of the Buffalo Bowling Association, George Obenauer. That's where the name comes from. Well, right now the name to talk about is Chuck Jagodzinski. He's going to win his 4th consecutive tournament game here on Beat the Champ. Working a streak of 5 strikes in a row, and Chuck Jagodzinski is going to be on the roll heading to the Tonawanda Bowling Center, finishes it off with a 6th consecutive strike, and it's Chuck Jagodzinski with a 227 that defeats Geno Walh 179. We'll talk to both guys, wrap it up, and get you ready for next week's show when we return on Beat the Champ. It's 4 wins in a row and a trip to Tonawanda for Chuck Jagodzinski following this victory over Geno Walh. By the end of the day, the lanes get to be pretty tricky, and it took you a little while to try to figure them out, didn't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of games on them, and there's a lot of friction out there too. So it's every time I thought I made a good shot, the ball just stopped, and then there's not much you can do when that's happening.
All right, well, I know who you can blame for that. It's this guy.
But look, I'll make it up to you I got to give you the right envelope. Yeah, I'll buy you a beer. Buy you a beer, give you an envelope, and are we good now?
You're forgiven.
All right, good. You're off the hook there, Jim. Well, on the hook and continuing to keep bowling is Mr. Jagodzinski.
Chuck, you made a very tough condition look pretty playable. What were you thinking out there?
Just hit the pocket and make my spares. I missed no spares in 4 games. Maybe once a game I'll have a wide open split, but make my spares and get enough strikes and barely beat my guys. That's all I had to do.
Yeah, well, that was a great performance out there because they weren't that easy, and you made them look pretty easy. So good job out there.
Yep, thank you.
All right, good luck in Tonawanda.
Yeah, thanks.
He's looking at me because he wants his month's work. So there you go.
That's the only reason I would look at you.
Right back at you.
See,
Deb.
it's not always me, Russo. It's not
back
the
at you.
only one here. So
Did I say that out loud?
you got the Russo hand wave out of him, Chuck. Well, we're not done with Chuck because he'll be back in 2 weeks at the Tonawanda Bowling Center to take on a whole new group of challengers. We'll see if he can't keep that win streak alive. Sue and I and Janelle will wrap it up and get you ready for a very special edition next week when we return on Beat the Champ. Well, we had a little history this week with Julie Selk becoming our first female bowler, but ultimately this whole week was the story of Chuck Jagodzinski, 4 wins in a row.
Yep, nothing was getting in his way. He just saw the lane the way it needed to be played, and he did his job. And he didn't really have much competition at the end. He really overwhelmed everyone.
Yeah, moving up the charts of our all-time winningest Beat the Champ bowlers. He'll have a chance to add to that when he returns with us at the Tonawanda Bowling Center in 2 weeks. Really fun show for you next week as we recap the finals of the recently completed Obenauer Masters tournament. Something a little bit different, but I'm excited about it.
Yes, because we talk about it all the time, and we just mention it as a stat. And we say it's an important stat, but now you're going to know why. You're going to know how many bowlers actually compete in this, the big board, the brackets, the double elimination, all of it.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be next week's special show. You get the week off next week.
Hey, that's pretty exciting. Cool for me.
Yeah, well, Janelle will be back manning the scoreboard as always in 2 weeks when we will see you next time on Beat the Champ.